think they got a piece of corn. No.
make sure everyone can hear me in the Zoom. I don't use them. I just use my voice in here. And this microphone, just for everyone that hasn't been here, I'll speak loudly, and if you can't hear, come towards the front, but I'll speak even louder. But this is for the people in the online, in the Zoom, this particular microphone. So yeah. Well, welcome everyone. Is anyone been here for the first time? A few. All right. Welcome. How did you find out about the classes? From a different class? Okay. From Charlie's class. Okay, great. Welcome. How about you guys? Talk at the fairgrounds. Oh, right. Great. Excellent. Welcome. Well, tonight we're going to talk about weight management, calorie density. If you're new, if you haven't checked it out in the back there's a couple of handouts. I actually have a handout, this one here, out there about this, the calorie density chart, which I'll be going over tonight. And then also if you haven't picked one up yet, the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine handouts are also back there. So pick one of those up if you haven't yet. And for those that are new, bathrooms in the back, feel free to get up anytime. They're on the left-hand side back there. So we're going to talk about that. Any questions, comments, or anything before we get started on tonight's topic? Yeah. Oh, yeah. You want to share your tip, Ray?
If anybody's never seen these before, these are called super cubes, SOUPER cubes. Oh, I thought it was. And I'll pass it around, but basically they're big ice cube trays, and what's really neat about them is we used to freeze beans and lentils and soup and rice and everything, and if you pop it out, it'll fit perfectly in a quart freezer bag, and you can stack the quart freezer bags in a basket, and you can get a whole bunch of stuff in your freezer. So if you like to do cooking ahead, it really works really great. And I'll just pass them around just so you can see. But these hold 2 cups. They make ones that are smaller, and they make ones that are bigger. Got them on the internet. Just Google super SOUPER cubes. It's a pun. And they are super. They really are. And they work really good. And we've had these for like about 6 years. So I'll just pass them around.
Great. Thanks, Ray. Yeah. And yeah, it's a little show and tell. And also for those that maybe missed the first 2 weeks, this is week 3 of 12, and there's a class schedule back there. You can watch the recordings on the class website. So if you go to livelifestylemedicine.com, you'll see how to navigate the site by clicking on the website tutorial that's on about 2/3 of the way down on the home page, and you can see where to go to the class archives and how to watch the recordings, because we have them online, but then also we record the online class. So if you ever miss a week, you can always catch up by just watching the class you missed. So I want to mention that. And so we're going to talk about. So next week, actually, Pam Burrell's who's here also, is going to be talking a little bit about kind of stress and sleep and social connection and things. And then also with this food addiction portion, Elizabeth Maxwell, who's here towards the end of the series, she's doing a section covering a little bit of food addiction stuff. And so I have a specific presentation I've done for that in the past, and I am giving the second part of that later in the summer at the Campbell Community Center, the food addiction portion that I've prepared myself. But tonight I'm just going to be talking about the weight management and calorie density part of this particular presentation. So go ahead and go to the next slide.
Yeah, very soft.
Yeah, they'll end up being in on the upcoming events section. So keep an eye on the class website, upcoming events, because that's kind of where I post things that are outside of the 12-week series that we're doing here. And there's stuff on there already for those upcoming classes. I think it's actually already there under the Campbell Community Center. You'll see on that. So So start with a quote. If we don't change the direction in which we are going, we will end up where we are headed. Red Skeleton. Next
Yes,
slide. Another one. You can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending.
I won't touch any of your pizza
Next
or
slide.
anything that came in boxes.
Just I don't know if you can
Okay?
see this. I'll kind of read it so you
You guys
get
can have
this is
your special
probably hard to
food.
see in the back. So
Don't eat my
two
beans.
different
That's all
mentalities. We have
nothing.
a diet mentality and a health mentality. And since we're
Did you
talking
eat
about weight
Wagnon?
management and calorie density today, I want to get us all kind of in the right framework mentally. So diet mentality focuses on food as the enemy, my bad habits, things I'm doing temporarily, things I don't like about myself, the scale, the weight scale, and a finish line. Whereas a health mentality, we're focusing on food as fuel, my good habits, things I'm doing forever, things that I want for myself, the daily choices, and a lifelong journey. So kind of hopefully get your mind into that area, which I know it's sometimes challenging to do when we're talking about our weight and things like that. So next slide. All right, so first we're going to talk about how our appetite works. And I'm going to go back to that, but I also want to kind of, pay homage to the fact that behavior change and food addiction do play a big role in our weight. And so it's not, when I talk about the appetite and how it works physiologically, that's just kind of the actual human physiology, science, how our biology works when it comes to appetite. That's all focused on. But, there are influences, as we all know, for our behaviors, and that food addiction can play a big role. Our emotions, both mental and physical, all play into our food choices. So, we'll cover some more of that stuff, and even Pam will probably talks a lot about that kind of stuff too. Just how we feel about ourselves, how we're judging ourselves, and things like that. How that can play into what lifestyle choices we make. And then also want to mention How Not to Diet, Dr. Greger. So that's another book. He has a bunch of different books, like How Not to Die, and How Not to Diet, How Not to Age. He has all these How Not to books. And just to give you a tip on that, the How Not to Diet book, there's so much information in there. It's written like a textbook, so many references and things. But if you want kind of the cliff notes of how to help lose weight using the science, you can go to his app, his Daily Dozen app we talked about in week 1. He also has a 21 tweaks included in that Daily Dozen app, 21 tweaks for weight loss. And so you can go on there and start clicking on each of the 21 tweaks. And it's amazing stuff. I mean, if you dove into the book, you can see all the backstory and all the science and studies on all this stuff. And you'll be like, how come we don't hear about this stuff? Wow, just this particular spice can help lose weight, and all these different things that you're thinking, well, how come this isn't mainstream? Well, you'll learn when you read that or look into it, is there's no money. There's no money. There's, for pennies a day, some of these spices and different things can actually help you to lose weight on top of the calorie density I'm going to be talking about tonight. And so, check that out if you haven't checked that out already. Yeah. Well, that's just the Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen app. So yeah, it's an app on its own, Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen, and then you'll see the 21 tweaks on there as well, and it has a little kind of shows you what it is and what you can add to your diet and things to help with that. You're welcome. Yeah. Sure. I can grab the second mic and I can hand that off, or I can just hand off mine, but whichever. Yeah. Yeah, and I can also repeat the question too, but I'll keep it handy. All right, so we're going to talk about how our appetite works. And so we have a couple different mechanisms. One is we have pressure receptors on the outside of our stomach. Basically, as the stomach expands and stretches, when we put whether it's air or water or whatever we put in it, it actually expands and stretches. That sends signals to the brain telling you that you're full. And so there's different hormones like ghrelin and leptin and CCK and all these different hormones that are sent to the brain to help you. It tells you whether you're hungry or whether you feel full. And so that if you think about that makes sense, right? But then we have to have another mechanism, which I'll talk about in a second, because if you think about it, well, what if you just drank water, for example? You just completely filled your stomach with water. That would stretch out the stomach. It has weight, and it would stretch your stomach, send a signal to your brain, hey, I'm full, my stomach's full. But if you think about that, that wouldn't be good from a survival benefit because there's no calories, right, in the water. No calories, and so we would die because we'd be, I just drank some water, but I don't want to eat. And so that wouldn't be a good idea. But if we have also something called calorie density receptors or nutrient density receptors, richness receptors, there's all these different names for it. And here's a good demonstration I want everyone to do to kind of demonstrate this. So everyone hold up a fist in front of your hand, both your fists actually, I can't with my microphone. So you have your fist size of food. And let's pretend that the right hand is kale and the left hand is cheesecake. Okay, so they have the exact same mass, take up the exact same amount of space in your stomach, right? And so, but which one, if you eat each of these, which one is going to make you feel full more, the kale or the cheesecake? The cheesecake, right? You're right. And because they're taking up the same amount of space, so they're both. You can put your hands down. They both they do the stretch reception the same because they take up the same amount of space. But we've all eaten the cheesecake, right? You eat that and you're like, ugh, that's really rich, right? And those receptors working. So your body knows the difference between the calorie density of that cheesecake versus the kale. So you're going to feel much more full with that same amount of cheesecake as with the kale. And so that's that mechanism in action, basically, to protect us, to make sure we're getting enough calories for survival.
I don't know if this is a question for the next session, a different session, but I said kale when you said cheesecake.
Yeah.
And for me, I don't know if it's partly due to behavior, probably so, but I can eat a whole cheesecake, and if I eat 2 or 3 cups of kale, I'm stuffed. But on the cheesecake, I can just keep eating it.
Yeah, you're right. So we know that, that's getting into, we've all been there where you can be completely full from a meal, but you can always have room for dessert, right? So that has more to do with the dopamine surge you're getting. Basically, it's like drug-like effect from the cheesecake, and because it's like, the kale doesn't like stimulate the dopamine like the cheesecake does.
Right. Perfect.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah. There's always room. There's always room for sweets, right? Eat dessert first. Yeah. Right. So that's how the appetite works. Any questions about that part? This is just the physiology. We're not talking about emotions or all the other things that play into it, like I showed here before. Is that making sense? Okay. So next slide. Okay. What is calorie density? And so also I want to show you. So you have these handouts in the back, which I'm going to go over. But also on the class website, livelifestylemedicine.com, there's also a couple other sections. If you go to the class handouts under the resources, so if you click on resources, go to class handouts, you'll see this one there. You'll also see a nice comparison of 500 calories, how much different foods fill up the stomach based on 500 calories. That's on the website, and so you can check that out as well. And then also under the video section, I'm going to be actually showing some video clips from the lecture. But on the video section of the Live Lifestyle Medicine website, you can go and watch the full hour 19-minute calorie density lecture by dietitian Jeff Novick, and so it's all on there. So all my patients that I'm trying to help to achieve their health goals, and a lot of times that's healthy weight, I tell them to watch that full lecture every 3 months until they reach their health goal, or if they start to gain weight back, watch it again. I probably watched it 9 or 10 times before I didn't pick up something new because there was so much information in it. And so you're going to get a little taste of it here tonight, but just know that, you can just go to the livelifestylemedicine.com website, go to the videos section, scroll down, you'll see calorie density lecture, Jeff Novick there. So, but I'm going to explain what calorie density is, just the real basics, and then I'm going to go over this chart and give you some examples, and then I'll be showing you some videos of demonstrating this with Jeff Novick. And he's a really funny, good lecturer. So, so what calorie density is, it's merely the number of calories in a given weight of food. And so in science, when they do studies on calorie density, it's in calories per gram. And then, but when I'm teaching it to you tonight, it's in calories per pound, because we all kind of know what a pound is and how, you put a couple of medium-sized potatoes, Yukon Gold potatoes on the scale at the grocery store, it's about a pound. So you kind of have a visual of what a pound of food is. And so, but in calories per gram is more accurate, but it's like 454 grams per pound, and what's 10 grams look like, what's 50 grams look like. Most of us don't really have a visual of that. And so when I first saw calorie density, we'll go over this chart. I looked at it and said, oh, well, oil is 4,000 calories in a pound. It's like, okay, well, I've never eaten a pound of oil. It's like, oh, and bread is, 1,200 calories in a pound of bread. Well, I don't think I've ever eaten a pound of bread at one time. So it's like, first time I looked at it, I thought, well, who cares? I don't ever eat a pound of any of these foods. But what we're taught always is like portion control. How many calories am I eating? Should I eat in a day? How many calories should I eat per meal? That's really difficult. Even a seasoned dietitian is not accurate at estimating calories. So it's really difficult. And then, so knowing the calories of something, you have to know the serving size. You got to know, like in a package, how much of that did I eat? And so it's really problematic, where if you know the calorie density of the food you're eating, and you only need to know like categories of foods, it doesn't matter, because the calorie density will never change. So calorie density is like a math constant. It's always the same. So whether you eat a ounce of a food or a pound of a food, the calorie density will never change. And so what you're going to learn is that on the left-hand side of the chart, which is where all the healthier foods are for the most part, you'll always be full before you'll ever eat too many calories. Whereas if you're on the right-hand side of the chart, the standard American diet, you're always going to eat too many calories before you'll feel full. And that's the concept of calorie density. So we're going to go over it in more detail, but I just wanted to kind of give you the brief, simple explanation of what calorie density is. And so you're going to see, when you see the examples of it, you're going to see how important it really is for weight loss. So oil on on one side is 4,000 calories a pound. And then on the far left-hand side, vegetables are about 100 calories a pound, and some vegetables are less than 100 calories a pound. So what I want you to appreciate on the chart is that there's over 40-fold difference in the calorie density from the most calorie-dense foods to the least calorie-dense foods. So if you lined up every food at the grocery store, there would be more than a 40-fold difference in the calorie density. Does everybody kind of see that? And then I'll let you, you have a question? That's the calories. So on the y-axis is the calories, and so you see those little bar graphs going up. So 4,000 calories in a pound. So that's calories per pound. And so let's start on the left-hand side of the chart. So vegetables are about 100 calories a pound. Fruits about 300 calories a pound. And then tubers are your potatoes, sweet potatoes. Those are about 400 calories per pound. And so as we go through this, and I'll give you some examples, and so you can kind of see the value of this. Whole grains, that would be like your brown rice, your oats, your quinoa, bulgur, amaranth, farro. If you went and got the intact grains at Winco in the bulk bin, for example, right? These are not processed grains. These are intact whole grains, about 500 calories a pound. Tofu is about 500 calories a pound. You'll see the colors are supposed to be green, yellow, and red. The yellow kind of looks orange-ish. And so there's not a lot of significance to the colors, but we'll go over those a little bit. Beans and legumes, so beans, peas, chickpeas, split peas, lentils, about 600 calories a pound. And then pasta actually is only about 600 calories a pound. And so you might be confused, like 600 calories a pound for pasta, but bread is 1,200 calories a pound. Does anybody have an idea why pasta is half the calorie density from bread. Anyone have a guess as to why that is? Because you kind of think of them as the same, right? Who said water? Right, yeah, right. So the pasta sucks up water, right? So most of the weight of pasta is water. So that's why the calorie density is only 600 calories per pound for pasta, but 1,200 calories a pound for bread. And we're going to kind of go over like one of the last slides will be where we'll go over the calorie density breakouts to achieve weight loss and all the different things, kind of the sweet spots and stuff like that. So yeah. So let's keep going here. Avocados, about 700 calories a pound. That's why they're in the yellow light, because that's getting a little high, because avocados are pretty high in fat, and fat has a lot of calories. So actually there's 9 calories in every gram of fat, no matter whether it's healthy fat or unhealthy fat. There's going to be always 9 calories in a gram of fat. There's only 4 calories in a gram of protein and only 4 calories in a gram of carbohydrate. And so just for reference. And then now we're getting into the poultry, eggs, and fish, about 700 calories a pound. And you'll notice they're red. And beef is about 1,000 calories a pound. Like a steak at a restaurant's about 1,200 calories per pound. And you might be thinking, well, that's not super high in calorie density. Why are they getting the red light? Well, it's not because of the calorie density, really. It's because there's no fiber. There's the saturated fat, the cholesterol. It has inflammatory. There's lots of things that are inflammatory in animal products, and so that's why it gets that. But the reason I bring that up, I like to bring that up, is because if you think about how people ate 100 years ago, 200 years ago, pretty much most of the calories came from 1,000 calories a pound to the left all the way. People ate, of course, meat and animal products, but there really wasn't much for processed food at that time, back 100 years ago, 200 years ago. And so that's why if you look at old pictures from like the 40s, the 30s, like think about anyone like to watch old movies like Danny Kaye and Humphrey Bogart and Cary Grant and all those. Everyone's like almost sickly thin. If you like watch those movies now, you're like, gosh, those people were like White Christmas, those old movies. It's like they all look sickly thin. It's like, no, that was normal. What we have today is not normal. And but that's what they were eating. They were mostly eating, they were eating some animal products, but they weren't eating a lot of processed foods, versus where all the high calorie density is. And so being overweight was very rare. It didn't happen very often. And so I wanted to bring that up. And then now you get into things like tortillas, 1,000 calories a pound, which is similar to bread. Ice cream, about 1,000 calories a pound. Dried fruit, 1,200 calories a pound. So why do you think fresh fruit is 300 calories a pound, but dried fruit is 1,200 calories a pound? I mean, it still has all the fiber, all the nutrients. So what? Any ideas? Water, yeah. So the water again, you've taken the water out. So now the calorie density is much higher. So it'd be pretty easy to sit and watch a movie and eat like 5 apples worth of dried apples. That'd be pretty easy, right? But could you sit and eat 5 apples? No, you'd just be like, oh, there's just so much because of all the water. It's the same amount of nutrients, the same amount of fiber, but you took away the water. And water plus fiber equals bulk. It takes up a lot of space and makes you feel full. And then moving on to there's cheese, 1,700 calories a pound. Pure sugar, just white sugar, is 1,700 calories a pound. Cookies are 2,000 calories a pound. Chips are 2,300 calories a pound. If you wanted to know, actually, Oreo cookies, a pound of Oreo cookies is 2,400 calories a pound. Yeah, right. Not that you'd ever eat a pound of Oreo cookies, but just to kind of give you the breakdown. And then here's an interesting little mind game. Okay, so we go back to whole grains. So think about, not that anyone cooks up wheat berries, but if you went out to a wheat field and boiled up a bunch of wheat berries, that's only 500 calories a pound, right? Sucked up water, it's a whole grain. But what happens when you mill it into flour, and then you just add water and yeast and some salt? What do you have now? Bread. Now it's 1,200 calories a pound. So it went from 500 calories a pound to 1,200 calories a pound just from doing that. Now what do you have when you add some oil, some sugar, some butter? Now what do you have? A cookie, right? Now you have a cookie. Now you're at 2,000 calories a pound. So you see, the more you add processing and the more you process a food, the higher the calorie density goes. And then butter is 3,300 calories a pound, and we talked about oil. So whether it's olive oil or avocado oil or motor oil or palm kernel oil or coconut oil, it's always going to be 4,000 calories a pound. And to put that into perspective, again, no one eats a pound of oil. 1 tablespoon of olive oil is 125 calories. So it takes like 40 olives to make 1 tablespoon of olive oil. So now, so there's more calories in a tablespoon of olive oil than a whole pound of vegetables. So just to kind of, if you're trying to lose weight, you don't want to add the oil because it's just tons and tons of calories. 125 calories in a tablespoon of any oil because it's 9 calories per gram. So that's how much it adds. And so questions about any of these before I give you some examples about how you kind of apply this and how impactful it is. Is it making sense so far, just looking at the numbers? Yes, Arun. I can just repeat your question too. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, if it's full of air, it's very light, right? And so a whole grain bread would be healthier, but there's probably more. If there's more air in it, then it's going to take. I think it would probably be I don't know how many loaves of white bread it would take to make a pound, versus how many loaves of bread you would have to make a pound of whole grain bread. And I'm not sure. I'd have to do a little experiment. But I want to show you here on this. So has anybody watched the Biggest Loser shows, or like Dr. Nowzaradan, the 600-Pound Life show? And so they tend to put people on a 1,200 calorie diet. And there's a lot of bariatric surgeons and weight loss specialists that recommend a 1,200 calorie a day diet to help lose weight. Because if you cut it down to that much and you're exercising, you're gonna lose weight. But to make you kind of realize how important this calorie density is to get to that 1,200 calories makes a huge impact. So we're all taught, portion control, smaller portions in your plate, and count calories and all this kind of thing. So if you're eating a more typical standard American diet, the calorie density is about 1,500 calories per pound. So if you think about looking at that chart and going, oh yeah, well, I'm eating cheese and pork and chicken, all these animal products, some vegetables, maybe some fruit, but lots of chips and cookies and bread and just kind of all the processed packaged foods you get at the grocery store, your calorie density is probably landing somewhere around 1,500, even as high as 2,000 calories per pound by doing that. Whereas if you're eating the way we're teaching in these classes, a 100% whole food plant-based diet, where you're having maybe half of your plate is vegetables and grains and beans and even some starchy vegetables, potatoes and sweet potatoes, fruit for dessert. We'll see where that green arrow goes down there. You're falling at about 500 calories per pound by eating that way. Whereas if you're eating the standard American diet, you're way over to the right. You're more like 1,500 calories per pound, as I mentioned. And so kind of keep those two numbers in your mind. Okay, so if you're eating more or less the standard American diet and you're trying to portion control, then if you're only getting 1,200 calories in a day and you're eating 1,500 calories a pound, how much food are you getting to eat in a day? Less than a pound. Yeah, whoever said less than a pound's right. More like 3/4 of a pound, right? And so we just talked about those stretch receptors at the beginning of class. And so the average person eats about the same amount of food from day to day. We're all a little bit different based on our body mass, our muscle mass, our activity levels, all these things. And so when they do studies on this, and they've done over 100 studies on this, most of them are out of Penn State University, the work of Barbara Rolls. And they've done these feeding experiments where they lock people up in a 5-star resort, and they feed them different levels of calorie density of food. And each time they get to eat as much as they want. The people it's called an ad libitum experiment. They get to eat as much as they want till they're comfortably full. Don't stuff yourself, don't go hungry. And they follow people over days, weeks, even they've done it over more than a month even. And what they find is that people, no matter what the calorie density is of the food, people tend to eat the same volume of food per day, and it's somewhere around 3 to 5 pounds of food most people eat in a day. So if you think about, okay, 3 squares a day, about a pound of food per meal, and you'll actually look at the stretch receptors and things like that. A pound of food in the stomach usually activates those stretch receptors as long as you have enough richness to the food like we talked about to also hit those receptors so you feel full and satisfied, satiated, satiety, right? And so keep that in mind. So, okay, let's say we're eating 3 pounds of food in a day to feel full, 1 pound per meal, 3 pounds a day. So if someone's eating 1,500 calories a pound, and they're only getting 1,200 calories, we decided less than a pound of food is all they're getting. Do you think they're going to be very happy, very satisfied, very satiated? No, their hunger drive is going to be like crazy. You're only going to be able to do that for so long. So no wonder people can't, maintain a diet and things like that when they're only eating that small volume of food. Now let's say you're eating 400 calories a pound or 500 calories a pound, just to make the math easy. If you're even eating more vegetables and grains and not eating too many, a moderate amount of beans and whole grains, but maybe a little heavier on the non-starchy vegetables even than the whole grains and the beans and starchy vegetables, you could easily be around 400 calories a pound, but 400 to 500 calories a pound. To get 1,200 calories, how much food does that person get to eat? 3 pounds, right? 400 calories per pound times 3 pounds is 1,200 calories. So who's going to be happier, the person eating 3 pounds of food in a day or the person eating 3/4 of a pound of food a day? The person eating 3 pounds, right? So you see how important calorie density is? If you stay to the left of the chart, you can eat as much as you want until you're comfortably full, and your calories are going to be much lower. Now, what if you're eating 3 pounds to feel full and satisfied on the standard American diet at 1,500 calories a pound? How many calories is that person eating? What's 1,500 times 3 pounds? 4,500 calories. No wonder people are having a hard time losing weight, right? And so go ahead and go to the next slide. I'm going to show you some examples of this and what they're going to show. So hold for a second. This is Jeff Novick, and so what he's going to show in the next couple of slides and videos is he's going to have a food on the right and a food on the left, equal calories. Which one makes you feel more full? The one on the right or the one on the left? And so this isn't a lecture, and so we're kind of coming in midstream, but just so you can kind of visualize this, you're going to see calorie density in action. So go ahead and play that.
Foods equal calories. All you got to do is see which one is more filling. Okay. So we got 2 little soy chicken nuggets, and we got 1 1/4 cups of vegetable lentil soup. Don't say anything yet. There are people still thinking on this one, okay? We'll give them a few minutes. Everybody think they got an answer? Which one do you think? The soup. Now, if you went to medical school or dietetic school or you studied biochemistry and physiology, they would tell you all different things about what fills you up. You might hear about chemicals and hormones and enzymes like CCK and ghrelin, and leptin. You might hear fat is more filling and all these other things, right? Just forget about it. Just pretend you just walked in off the street, which I think many of you did. You just walked in off the street. You don't know anything about biochemistry, chemistry, food, or anything. Just take a wild guess. What do you think it is about the vegetable lentil soup that will fill you up more than the soy chicken nuggets? Anybody? Volume. Man, there's just more of it. And it turns out that's right. They actually did these studies where they fed people equal calories of food to see which was the most filling. And they did it short-term, long-term, subjective, and objectively. So pretty good studies. And they found out that all foods that fill you up have 3 things in common. And can anybody guess what number 1 was? Reading my prompts, huh? Number 1 was water, and that kind of makes sense, because what does water take up a lot of? Space. And filling up the space in the stomach actually contributes to satiety. Because as you'll learn more about this weekend, on the outside of the stomach, you have these little nerves called stretch receptors. And when you fill the stomach up, they stretch a little, they send signals to the brain, which help release all those chemicals telling you you're, right? Don't you all like to get that feeling of full? So water is very important. Water helps, gives you that, and water also has a lot of weight, which helps give that stretch. Because some things have lots of volume, but they don't have a lot of weight, right? Like air. So water was very important. Anybody want to guess what number 2 was? That's right. Fiber. Now, fiber doesn't make sense when you think about it like water does, because fiber doesn't take up a lot of space, it doesn't have a lot of volume. But do you know what you get when you mix a lot of water and a lot of fiber together? You know what you get? You get a lot of, did you say gas? That's true. You get a lot of gas in the beginning. But you get something called bulk, right? And it turned out that bulk was the biggest contributor to your feeling full. Now, nutrients did play a role. You do have these nutrient receptors, and nutrients were important, but it turns out they're not the most important. So when they tell you to eat a diet high in protein or high in fat because that'll fill you up the most, it's not true. I could take 2 foods with the exact same amount of protein in them, and guess which one will fill you up more? The one that has the most bulk. Right. Think about that. So it's not just the protein or the fat, and I'm going to show you here in a minute.
Go to the next one.
Okay, you ready? Okay, we have a cup of cashews, and we have 6 small baked potatoes. Do not say anything yet. So, with salsa. That's correct. Somebody, yeah, with salsa. We'll leave it at that. Okay, which one do you think will fill you up more? The potatoes. Why? What do the potatoes have more of that the cashews do? Bulk. Now, are these high in fat? Yeah, they're 75% fat. Is this low in fat? It's 1% fat. So is fat filling? No, not at all. Now, does this make cashews fattening? No, not necessarily. What if you ate just 1 or 2 cashews? That's not right. You're right. We know nobody does that. Okay, now I'm going to do some other comparisons. You ready? So this one was pretty easy. Enough said over there, right? Okay, look at this one. Oh, we did this one already, but I want to make another point. Is this high in fat? 70, 80%. Is this low in fat? Under 10. So is fat what filled you up? What filled you up? The bulk. Everybody got that? Here we go. 2 low-fat fig Newmans, not to mention anybody in particular, and 1 small cantaloupe. They're both 140 calories. You see the difference? Which would fill you up more? The cantaloupe. Now, let me ask you a question. In 1980, you heard you should go on a low-fat diet, right? So you go to the supermarket or the whole food store, and you find all these low-fat foods, and you fill up on those. Do you see the problem? If you eat all you want, what happened to your caloric intake? It's too high. But what if you eat just the right amount of calories? Then what's happened? Now you're hungry all day long. Is that going to happen with these foods? Now, just for the record, do you know that the percentage of fat, carb, and protein is almost identical? They almost have the same ratio. So is it the ratio or the amount of protein, the carb, or the fat that fills you up? Because those two are pretty equal. What fills you up more? Bulk. It's simple. Look at this one. Here's the... On the left, we have a 2-pound fresh pineapple. On the right, we have 4 ounces of gummy bears. Both are 450 calories. Now, I put this one up there because everybody's anti-sugar these days, right? You can't have sugar. Sugar's no good. Can't have carbs. And I think that's crazy because, you know, sugar's good for you. I mean, does everybody know what the the best fuel for your body is? Gummy bears. Make a note of that. I got to fix the slide, okay? Gummy bears. Right. What's the fuel that your body runs on, the preferred fuel? Glucose. That's a fancy name for sugar. Now, your body will also burn another fuel. Anybody know what it is? Fat. Whoever said it is correct. The two fuels your body likes to burn, number one is sugar, number two is fat. Now, every now and then you hear somebody say, I need some energy. I got to get some protein. Right? You ever hear that? Well, just realize when somebody tells you that, they just told you they know nothing about physiology and biochemistry, because that's not what your body wants to use for energy. And in fact, it's a difficult process. Your body uses carbs first, and secondary is fat. So, when you work out, some of you get exercise, your muscles burn up some carb, and they also burn up some fat. And some of us are looking to burn up a little bit more fat, right? But there's parts of your body that can't burn fat. Parts of your body can only burn sugar, glucose. And anybody know what part of your body it is? The brain. That's why I don't get it when people are so anti-sugar and they want to avoid sugar. I mean, I don't know about them, but my brain, very important to me. And it needs sugar every day. And they've actually done studies. I mean, there's recommended minimum intakes of sugar just to fuel the brain. Anybody know how much that is, the recommended minimum intake of sugar you need just to fuel the average brain? 500 calories a day just to fuel the average brain. Now, I had mine tested. Mine burns about 750 a day, but... Oh, I'm smart. You're very nice. Because the last time I was here, somebody raised their hand and said, why? Is yours less efficient? Why is that funny? I said, don't make fun of me. I have the props. Okay, so is sugar the problem, or is the package the problem? I mean, these both have the same amount of calories and the same amount of sugar. Are they equal to you? No. What's 90% of the weight and volume of the pineapple you're going to eat there? Water, fiber, vitamins, minerals, nutrients, and a great package and great matrix, just right for you. What's 90% of the weight and the volume of this? Sugar. So is sugar the problem or the package it came in? It's the package. Don't be afraid of sugar. Once again, get it in its whole natural form. Now, what I think is the real irony is they take foods like this, they process and refine the heck out of them, so we're left with this white crystalline powder, which is sweet, but doesn't really have a flavor. It's just sweet. So then they make it into things like this, but to get kids to eat it, what do they flavor it as? This. Does anybody see that irony? Just give them the pineapple. So then we have people who have been loading up on these for 20 years. They got heavy. And then what do they say? I can't eat pineapple. It has sugar in it. So, okay, here's a few more I just want to show you so you can get the point. Every one of them will be 200 calories. That's a pat of butter, in case you forgot what it looked like. And those are grapes, 200 calories. Which would be better for you? Which would be more filling? Which would have more fiber, vitamins, minerals, nutrients, and everything? Okay, here we have a little bit of almonds. Here we have carrots. Same 200 calories. See the difference? So you see the problem if we put bowls of almonds out in the back? We would have this room packed. It's not that almonds are bad for you, but what would happen to all of you? We would overeat. And it's not your fault. So, here we go again. French fries and honeydew melon. See the difference? And which would be better for you? The one on the right. Right. That's olive oil and sliced apples. Same calories. Which would fill you up more? Which would be healthier? Right. There's broccoli and pretzels. Are you drooling over the broccoli now or the pretzels? This was the red meat guy, so I'm trying to figure it out. See the difference? Now, I'm not saying you should only eat raw broccoli. I'm just making a point. And is everybody getting the point? Okay, good, because now it gets harder. Hershey Kisses and those little red peppers we occasionally have out in the back. See why we put the peppers out? No. Okay. Potato chips and celery. Every now and then somebody says, you know, I'm really enjoying this diet, but I would like something crunchy. And I'm like, eat crisp celery. It's very crunchy. And they say, no, I want something that's crunchy and kind of has like a salty flavor. So I said, eat crisp celery. It's crunchy and kind of has a salty flavor. And they say, no, that's not quite what I want. And I say, just admit it. You want potato chips. Okay.
Okay. Go to the next slide. One more. Oh, yeah. This is back. This is on. You probably want to turn this off. Yeah, and you can. There you go. So now my microphone's off. Next, yeah, right. Leave it right there. Yep. So yeah, again, you can watch that full lecture on the class website, livelifestylemedicine.com, under the video section. So these are the what we call calorie density breakouts. Basically the results of all the studies that they did, where they fed people over a period of time different amounts of calories, and people had different amounts of exercise and things. And so eating only foods that are 400 calories per pound or less, everyone lost weight even without exercise, completely sedentary. So if you just stick with the kind of all the stuff we talk about in here, eating all fruits, vegetables, beans, whole grains, and even maybe a little heavier on the non-starchy vegetables than the starchy vegetables, easily get to that 400 calories a pound or less. Again, all these examples are eating as much as you want, ad libitum experiments. So you could eat 400 calories or less, everyone lost weight, even completely sedentary. And then next breakout was 400 to 800 calories per pound. So if you were eating in that range, eating as much as you want, everyone lost weight as long as you exercise 30 to 60 minutes per day. And so just in general, if we're exercising like we're supposed to, getting that 150 minutes a week, and like that's the other pillar, one of the other 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine, then 400 to 800 calories per pound in that range would be really easy to do if you're eating the way we're teaching in this class. So there's that. And then the next breakout was 800 to 1,200 calories per pound. Everyone gained weight except for the extremely heavy exercises, which I think was like 60 minutes or more of high intensity workouts, so getting your heart rate up. And so kind of like watching The Biggest Loser and some of those shows where they're just tons and tons of exercise, kind of almost a level of exercise that's not necessarily sustainable for most people. But so 800 to 1,200 calories per pound, which, if you're eating a plant-based diet, you could easily be in that range if you're eating, lots of bread, lots of nut butters, avocados, tortillas, things, going out to a restaurant where you're getting a vegan option where there's oil and things. It would be pretty darn easy to get to that 800 to 1,200, even if not a little higher, in that range on your calorie density. So keep that in mind. And then the 1,200 calorie per pound and up breakout group, everybody gained weight, even the heavy exercisers. So that's the standard American diet, is over 1,200 calories a pound. So even the heavy exercisers were still gaining. So kind of keep those in mind and for wherever you're trying to look at that chart. And so it's kind of like you don't have to memorize the calorie density necessarily of all the different foods. You just kind of go, okay, here's my meal for today, or my meals I planned out for today. How can I lower my calorie density? Things like that. And sometimes I have patients that are actually wanting to increase their calorie density because they're either trying to put on weight, put on muscle. They're, maybe their appetite's not super great, and so they're trying to actually put on weight, or again, a really heavy exerciser. Like me, when I was doing all my long distance cycling, I couldn't I couldn't ride 100 miles in a day just eating, like potatoes and broccoli and things like that. I had to take a lot of nuts, mixed nuts, and I'd stop at a grocery store and get a loaf of bread and use hummus for the mayonnaise and put on avocado and tomatoes and cucumbers, eat 2 or 3 of those suckers, because I'm burning like 8 or 9,000 calories in a day because I'm riding all day long. And so I had to increase my calorie density, because if I was just eating salads and potatoes, even potatoes and sweet potatoes, only 400 or 500 calories a pound, I'd fill up my stomach. That wouldn't be enough calories to keep me going. So I'd have to also eat the higher calorie density, lots of the nut butters and all that kind of stuff to get up there, because nuts are 2,800 calories a pound, right? And so on that chart. So it's going to vary depending on what your health goals are and your weight goals. And so kind of keep that in mind. And then go ahead and go to the next slide. I think I just have the reminder about the full Jeff Novick video. But so questions about that. I mean, also, I think I was going to say one other thing about with the calorie density is, and there's tips on, and if you watch that full lecture, you also see where, some strategies you can do is you kind of, and Dr. Greger has it in his 21 tweaks also, preloading with kind of negative calorie foods, if you've heard about that. So like drinking a glass of water before you eat a meal sometimes can help you eat a little bit less, and when they do these studies. And then eating a salad that's just got, it's all non-starchy vegetables, eating that before you eat the higher calorie density entree, for example, whatever you cooked, maybe you had some pasta or something, that can help you eat a little bit less of the higher calorie density foods in the meal. And then if you're kind of wanting to go back for seconds, go back and have another salad instead of the entree, because that'll fill you up and give you more volume of food with less calories. And then another way to do it is, I know kind of Charlie does this with his bowls and stuff. Instead of having like, say, pasta with vegetables on it, have vegetables with a little bit of pasta on it, or vegetables with some quinoa or brown rice on it. So you kind of take the higher calorie density part and make that the smaller amount, and make the lower calorie density the bigger part. So you're lowering that calorie density. But I want to also mention that this happens a lot with my patients over the years, is that they would just eat huge giant salads, not include starches, not include grains, not include enough beans, and then their calorie density was too low. So you'd eat this even a big mixing bowl full of salad, which is tons of volume, will fill you up, but stretch out your stomach, but an hour or two later, you're starving again because the calorie density was too low, all down around 100 calories a pound in that salad, especially if you didn't put an oil-based dressing on it, just maybe some balsamic vinegar and a little lemon juice or something. Then that calorie density was too low. And so then people will go back, I couldn't eat this way because I was too hungry all the time. It's like, well, they weren't eating enough starchy vegetables, enough potatoes, sweet potatoes, whole grains. Is there a problem in the back? Oh, no. Okay. So you have to be careful to make sure you're getting enough calorie density to make you feel full and satisfied. Question, yeah.
On Zoom, Tara asks, what makes tofu in the 500 range?
So the question is, what makes tofu in the 500 calories per pound range? So it's because it's a little bit processed. So, soy is pretty high in fat, as you saw in those soy nuggets. Of course, those probably had oil in them too, and compressed, very processed. So tofu is a little bit processed. So edamame is the whole soybean, which, probably, still about 500 or 600 calories a pound. But if you think about a pound of actual edamame beans would be a huge amount. You can never probably eat that in one sitting. That would be a lot. Whereas a pound of tofu, even though it does have a lot of weight from water, it is still really high in fat, very compressed. And so, but still 500 calories a pound is still pretty low compared to processed foods, which are well over 1,000 calories a pound. Or say a piece of steak or beef is over 1,000 calories a pound. So still a lot less, and it has lots of protein, but it is a little higher in fat, which is why tofu gets a little bit higher calorie density than some of the other beans and things like that, which you would, it would be much easier to eat 500 calories worth of tofu versus 500 calories worth of edamame whole soybeans, if that makes sense. So yeah. Other questions, and do we have any ideas on either a Q&A or a breakout group? Okay. Okay, great. You can turn on the. So questions for about weight management, calorie density. This whole concept is it new to most of you? The concept of calorie density. Yeah, it's when I learned it, it was quite amazing, and it's like, wow, I never learned this, and it's really powerful. It kind of makes you, hopefully you feel empowered. It's like, oh, I have control over this because I can pick the foods that I'm eating and the categories and trying to get kind of an ideal calorie density for my meal.
Well, Scott, stay up there.
Okay.
And Jerry, we have the mic on. So
Oh, okay, great.
Would you tell the story about ice cubes and a block of ice, the difference?
Oh yeah, that's a good example. So the example of ice cubes and or shaved ice and a block of ice is what I like to think about. So when you look at the foods that are low in calorie density, the unprocessed whole foods, plant-based especially, the reason that they're, because you think about like with the pineapple versus the gummy bears is a good example that he showed up there. So a pineapple would be, even though it has the same amount of sugar as 4 ounces of gummy bears, the pineapple is like a block of ice sitting on your front lawn on a hot summer day. It's going to take a long time to melt, right? It's going to be slow absorption because of the water, the fiber, just the package it's in. Your body has to digest it, break it down, and the sugars get released slowly. And so you feel full. It makes it further down your gut. Makes kind of triggers like Charlie talks about the L cells, the GLP, natural GLP, make you feel full and satisfied. Whereas if you refine something, refined sugar, refined flours, packaged processed foods, that's like shaved ice. Because you've taken that whole food and you've processed it, refined it, now it's shaved ice, and then what happens if you throw shaved ice on the front lawn on a hot summer day? It melts really fast, right? And so those calories get released quickly, that sugar gets released quickly, your body doesn't have to do any work, and so you're just by merely chewing it, you're already breaking it down, it's already digesting, it gets absorbed high up in the small intestine, and doesn't make it down to those cells that we need down in the last part of the small intestine, early part of the colon, make you feel full and satisfied. So that's a good example. Yes, back there.
Mangoes.
Mangoes, yeah. So it's a fruit. So it's the same thing. So mangoes are good because it's full of fiber, water, all the micronutrients, everything just right for you. But then if you had dried, I know at Costco they have dried mango. They add sugar to it even, which is already sweet. And so now if you have dried mango, it's 1,200 calories a pound, plus even more if they add sugar to it. Whereas if you just ate a fresh mango, it's only 300 calories a pound. And so you can kind of eat as much mango as you want. But of course we always say eat a wide variety of whole foods, and you don't want to eat too much of one particular thing because you want to get those 30 different plants in for the week, right, we talk about, right? So, yeah. Question?
What do you think about intermittent fasting?
Intermittent fasting, that's a good, it's more, when we talk about intermittent fasting, that's more of a general term. There's intermittent fasting where people do fast for 24 hours, and then they eat for 48 hours, and then they fast for 24 hours, different days, 1 day a week, 1 day a month. That can be considered intermittent fasting. But most people, when they say intermittent fasting, what they really mean is time-restricted eating. And that's been shown to help with weight loss. And so what that means is you eat during a specific window of time. And so the minimum is to do 12 hours of eating, 12 hours of fasting, and there's some kind of detoxification health benefits to that, some weight loss benefits to that, but what's really important is you don't ever eat after 8 p.m. because after 8 p.m. we become more insulin resistant, so we're more likely to store those calories as fat than if we eat that same meal at 8 o'clock in the morning. And so you never want to eat after 8 p.m., that's one. And then if you can get even more health benefits and weight loss benefits if you narrow your eating window to 8 hours, and then you fast for 16 hours and you eat for 8 hours. So that could be like you eat from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and then that's it, and then just have water after that. You can't even have coffee, even black coffee or tea. You can't have that either. Just has to be completely clear water only for your fasting window. And so that has some benefits, but you have to be careful because if you're on blood pressure medicine or diabetes medicines, you're on insulin, you need to check with your doctor first because that could make your blood sugar too low, even blood pressure too low. Like if you take your medicine, say you took your medicine with dinner or something and then you didn't eat for 16 hours, blood pressure when you get up in the morning could be really low because it is good for you to do that kind of a time restricted eating, but it could affect how your medications affect your body. So you want to be careful with that. Make sure you're drinking enough and things like that. So, yeah. Other questions? Anything you want to add, Charlie, to this discussion?
Scott, a lot of people are under the impression that they have excess weight because they're not exercising enough. And there was a study that this last week, maybe you could share with them, the NPR. They could look it up, NPR and obesity.
Yeah.
But you might share that with
it just
them.
kind of goes to there was a study that just got published. It was on NPR. I didn't see all the sources and stuff of it, but it just said how, it's not lack of exercise is not the key to the weight problem. It's the food. And I was like, my story, if you guys were here a couple weeks ago, was a perfect example of that. So when I was 47 pounds heavier, I was riding my bicycle 7,000 miles a year. Yet I had all that extra weight, unhealthy. It wasn't until I fixed the food that I got my health and lost the weight. So I was lowering that calorie density, making different food choices. And even though I was exercising, 2,000 to 3,000 miles a year on the bike instead of 7,000 miles a year on the bike, and I got all those health benefits and lost the weight because it was the food. And so it just kind of goes to that. And there's, I used to have a sign in my office that says you can't outrun your fork. So it shows that picture of a fork, and you can. I mean, it's really important to exercise. It's really good for our health, mental health, physical health, so many ways. But as far as a weight loss strategy, it hasn't been shown to be effective, except for those really extreme short term, like the Biggest Loser kind of thing. That definitely helps. But thing is too, part of the reason is because when people tend to work out at the gym or whatever, I really worked out, it just stimulates your appetite, and so then if you end up eating more of the bad food, and sometimes people make a worse food choice because I deserve this because I just did that workout, then it kind of backfires and they end up being worse off as far as weight goes because they, you show a video sometimes in some of the classes where it shows like somebody was eating, what was the examples? One was like a candy bar. They were on a treadmill. One ate a candy bar and the other one ate a carrot. And they say, how long did it take to burn off the calories from that carrot versus the candy bar? And the person that ate the carrot strolled for 2 or 3 minutes, just a slow walk pace, and that was gone. The person who ate the candy bar, they had to run for 30, 40, 45 minutes, high intensity to burn off that candy bar. So it just shows exercise. I think it's something like 6 miles you have to walk just to work off the small French fry from McDonald's. It's like 6 mile run just to burn that off. So it's like, that's not going to work.
So this is really an important topic for so many people, and it's been such a frustration, the issue with weight loss. It's such a problem in our culture, and it's become increasingly a problem with our kids. In fact, the American Academy of Pediatrics recommended that if you try lifestyle interventions in a child for a while, a year or so, 6 months to a year, if it doesn't work, then they should be placed on that medication, Ozempic, which is a medicine that you take for life, or if you don't take it for life, you tend to drift right back to where you were, with likely more total body fat. So the Ozempic, you can make your own Ozempic, which we talk about in another lecture. But I just want to kind of have you share, where are you getting all the excess calories in your diet? We don't always think about this, but that's one of the reasons for you coming to a class like this, is you understand this principle, hopefully now, of calorie density. Scott did a wonderful job of trying to explain why you get full and, how you can do it. But for those of you who care to share, where is it that you're getting these excess calories which are keeping on too much weight? Yes.
Ice cream, chips. I don't eat bread, but binging on ice cream.
Yeah, so that brings us to that lecture that you give on food addiction. Mm-hmm. There's a number of reasons that it's hard to stay away from these, but it is important to verbalize where these fats come from, or the the excess calories are coming from. So the chips, the cookies, the crackers, the ice cream, as you mentioned.
Fast food.
The fast foods. Now, included in those fast foods, what do you think about the plant-based meats? What do you think they do to make those tasty?
Sugar, fat.
They add extra fat and salt and sugar to make it taste good. So maybe as a short-term goal to help people transition, that maybe it's okay to use those as kind of a transition food. But if you're really looking for your health and you don't want to be having excess calories, be extremely careful about how much of these fake meats that you're choosing to put in your diet. But if you're trying to help others change what they're eating, to fake them out a little bit and say, you know, this food is not so bad after all, you might try that as an initial strategy, but be careful. What are some of the other issues? Oil. Yes?
Liz on Zoom says creamer in coffee, even if it's not dairy, it adds up.
Creamer in coffee. Very good. That's an excellent one.
I was going to say, to me, it's late night eating like sugar, or something, even with fruit sugar, it's like it's late at night, or it's past 8 o'clock cutoff.
So eating late at night, as Scott mentioned, when you start eating, your body is not geared up. But if you're eating later at night, your body is saying, oh, I better start store fat because we're still in the eating mode. So try to cut it off. Yes?
So, in talking about that, would that make a difference as to when your intermittent fasting hours work? Could you eat after 8 if your hours went later before you ate the next morning, or is it just because you're watching something?
Yeah. So the question was, if you're intermittent fasting or time restricted eating, is it okay if it's after 8? It's like, well, you would still get some benefit from doing that, but ideally you want to cut it off at 8 because the calories are worth so much more after 8 p.m. than they are at 8 a.m.
Just for everybody?
For everybody. And it has to do with something called circadian rhythm. It's really amazing. You can actually put human cells in a petri dish, and they know that they act differently from 8 o'clock at night to 8 o'clock in the morning. It's amazing. So it doesn't matter if you work graveyard, overnight shift or not. So I actually have patients that work graveyard, and he's trying to lose weight and reverse his diabetes and everything. And I've told him how bad it is to eat after 8 o'clock. And so what he's trying to do now is just drink water during his shift. So eat a big meal before he goes to work. So that guy in particular, I think, usually goes to work about 7:30. I think he works till like 5 or 6 in the morning. And so he eats a big meal before he goes to work, just drinks water during his shift, and then actually eats another big meal when he gets home from work before he goes to sleep. And so and he's kind of thinking, well, that doesn't seem like I should do that because like you wouldn't think, just like at nighttime, if I'm awake during the night and asleep during the day, wouldn't that be bad? It's like, no, the circadian rhythm knows the difference. It doesn't matter whether you're working all night or not. It's going to be harder to not eat when you're working all night because your body's active and wanting to do that. But the way the circadian rhythm works is our physiology is laid down to be, okay, it's dark outside, we're not supposed to be eating. We're supposed to be sleeping, storing our calories we ate during the day for fat in case we don't have a meal tomorrow or the next day or the next day, hunter-gatherer, right? And so then when we're awake, then that's when we're, okay, we need to eat. Let's eat lots of food. We're going to burn most of it to get around and get to the next place and all this. And then so it's kind of working against us now. It's like we want to store fat, and that's why we become more insulin resistant after 8 p.m. because insulin resistance makes you store fat more efficiently. And we don't want to do that, right? We don't want to store fat more efficiently. We're trying to get rid of fat. So that's how that works. And so that's why you want to try to cut it off. And another trick would be to go ahead and just like, okay, you're done and you've had enough to eat and everything, but then I know I've had it happen before lots of times where I was full after dinner, I feel plenty full, but then 9 or 10 o'clock at night when I'm getting ready to go to bed, I'm like, I'm hungry. Maybe I didn't eat enough today. And so then sometimes I would eat more, and then that wasn't good. And then when I wouldn't eat, I just, okay, I'm just going to fight through it, and then I'll see how I feel in the morning. And I figured, okay, I'm probably going to be like famished in the morning. If I went to bed hungry, how hungry am I going to be in the morning? And for me anyway, when I wake up in the morning, I'm not hungry at all. It's like it was not true hunger. It was actually just, it's actually something, it's actually Doug Lyle, who's a psychologist, talks about, it's called the cram circuit. And so the cram circuit is basically in the brain. It's telling you, it's basically that kind of physiology saying, hey, we want to store some more fat because we don't get to eat tomorrow. So it's making you want to eat and craving things that are high in calorie density, sugar and salt and fat and things like that. And so one of the tricks is to make sure you eat enough for dinner so you feel full and satisfied, and then just go ahead and brush your teeth after you're done eating dinner. And then sometimes having that minty flavor in your mouth throughout the evening, it doesn't sound good because I'm minty, So it doesn't. So that's a trick. And then you can drink water. Plain water is fine. Just, of course, then downside might be you have to get up at night to pee a bunch. So you have to be careful with that too. But yeah. So those are some of the tricks in dealing with that issue.
Let's carry on a little bit about what you think might be healthy in the form of oil, salad dressings, cooking with oil. How many of you feel that's a healthy choice? Olive oil, avocado oil. You've heard those are healthy choices, yes? So what do you think about the calorie density of those foods? And what do you think about the extra calories that you're getting from them? Yes?
Quick question. I was making pesto a couple of days ago.
Yeah. You're making pesto a couple days ago.
And you are asked to put some olive oil in that.
You're asked to. It's in the recipe. I get it. Okay.
So what do you use instead of olive oil?
I don't use olive oil. And what do you use? I'm not sure what you'd use for pesto, but there may be, yes, Pam?
I make a creamy pesto with basil and a few pine nuts and silken tofu.
Silken tofu.
It makes a really good sauce.
Wow, what a thought.
Say it again.
Yes, go ahead, over here. Coconut oil, it is the highest in saturated fat, which is the building blocks, those saturated fat, for blocking your heart arteries over time. And so it's not a healthy choice, as it turns out. On your skin, it's probably okay to use that coconut oil, but I'd otherwise stay away from it. Yes, Ray.
What if you use the whole olives?
If what?
If you use the whole olives.
Yeah, so what if you use the whole olive? You would be getting what? Instead of squeezing a bunch of olives and just getting the pure 100% fat, what would you be getting with it?
Fiber.
Water, fiber, bulk, the minerals and vitamins, a much healthier choice. If you're trying to reverse heart disease like Esselstyn and you're having chest pain, 1 foot in the grave and one on the banana peel, you may still want to avoid those fats like avocados and olives because they are high calorie because of the oil in them. They have excess fat. So you may choose for a while not to eat so much of that. But it's much healthier choice to eat the olives or the avocado than the olive oil itself. Jerry, and then next over here.
And palm oil is what they put in peanut butter to make it no stir.
Yeah, so peanut butter. We think that's a healthy choice. In fact, nut butters are part of Gregor's protocol. If you buy the kind of peanut butter that is ground up using the palm oil, not nearly as healthy as eating the peanuts as they are in their natural state. Eat enough peanuts that you're getting about a tablespoon or two of the nuts for your nuts for the day. So, yes.
I think both of us missed silken
tofu.
Silken?
Silken, S-I-L-K-E-N. Silken, silken tofu. It's not firm. It's not extra
It's kind
firm.
of like a jello.
Okay. We both heard it.
It's the mushy, it's got a lot of water in it.
You can make
Yes.
real good chocolate pudding with it.
Yes?
Is sun butter considered a nut?
Is what?
Sunflower butter considered a nut?
She's asking if sunflower water's good.
Again, it's a processed, highly processed food, not nearly as healthy probably as olive oil, which has more omega-3s and unsaturated. Yes, Ray.
If you want to buy nut butters, get them at Winco where they grind the nuts, and then
Right.
they don't have any added stuff.
That's an excellent suggestion.
Say that again, Robert.
Good what? Yeah, if you want to get a nut butter, get them at a place that they just grind the nuts without putting in extra oils in there. Okay, so oils, 100% fat. Cheese. You all love cheese at one point in your life, and you may still love cheese. But the question is cheese a friend for you or not? If you're trying to lose weight, it's not a friend. It's like about 70% fat. And it has the IGF-1, the insulin-like growth factor 1 that all dairy products have in them, which are stimulate cancer cells potentially. And one of the main reasons we're talking about weight, why is that? Because of the cytokines that are produced in that excess fat, which lead to inflammation in your body. Inflammation is one of the chronic etiologies, the underlying causes of diabetes and heart trouble and arthritis and our chronic illnesses. So you may have normal blood pressure, normal cholesterol. You may be like your doctor says you're healthy because your values look good, but you are at risk when you're overweight. And that's why this class is so important. White chicken breast, the skin removed. What percent fat? 20% fat. How about fish? Anywhere from 30 to 50% fat. So you'd say, but aren't those healthy? You get no fiber in those foods. Now, when you eat plant foods, beans or lentils or whole grains like oatmeal, when you're eating fruit and vegetables, you know how much fat are in those? Less than 10%. About, you're going to get about 10% of your calories in a day if you just stick with eating foods as grown in nature. And you'll get so much extra fiber, which will lead to getting anti-inflammatory products. It's just such a healthier way to make a choice. Yes.
Very good sort of eating here. Conclude with that. I thought I'm going to try it because I really trust Scott and what my daughter and my husband go to him. And I would say 98% went to this style. I had no idea I could feel full ever in my entire life. Have I ever felt full? And I'm almost panicking because it feels so easy, which is, I have to get through that. That's a whole other set of issues. But this is amazing. And my pain level has, I'm in chronic pain all the time, and my pain level has dropped so much, so significantly, like unbelievable. So you sold me.
It's because of you that we want to keep coming back and teach another class and have enough people who are supportive of what we're doing so that it becomes easier for everyone, because it's hard when you don't have support from your culture and community.
When I'm trying to meet emotional needs,
But, and I thought, oh, I could never quit that. And I just made a decision when I started this, I'm gonna try this for 12 weeks. And I don't want the ice cream. I don't want it. Like, it's like super weird, but it's definitely amazing.
Thanks for sharing that. Yes.
Absolutely. There's a weight. Yeah.
Yes.
So, how does that play into what we plan for this thing back to the
Yeah. Well, and unfortunately, the question is about menopause. So when you lose your estrogen levels go down, then you actually lose that kind of protection that you had against things like insulin resistance. So when women go through menopause, their estrogen levels go down and they become actually more insulin resistant just automatically, even without any change in diet or exercise or anything. So you get, it's like it was like a handicap, like a golf handicap. It was good, right? You had that when you had the effects of estrogen. Then when you lose that, it makes it even harder to lose weight because you become more insulin resistant. And so it's always, it's kind of unfair, but like with men tend to lose weight easier than women because more muscle mass on average and things. And so it's kind of like, it's unfair, but you have to lower your calorie density even more to get the same effects that you maybe got. And then if you read Dr. Greger's book, the How Not to Diet book, there's a whole science about like you eat when you eat the same amount of food and you lose weight, it takes less calories just to move around. So if you lose, say you lost 20 pounds because you changed your diet, and then now it's going to be even harder to lose weight because now think about how much more calories you would burn wearing a 20-pound backpack, right? So now you've lost that. So now you have to drive your calorie density down even more. You have to fight your hunger drive even more. You have to eat even more volume of food to kind of overcome, because your body actually wants to put the weight back on, because it's like it's thinking this is wrong. What if we don't get to eat for 2 weeks? And so you have to drive that calorie density down even more, exercise even more, to kind of combat that, given, because exercise will help you lose weight if you're eating the right food, right? So if, like we talked about earlier, you can actually still help yourself by, if you're eating the right food choices, making the right food choices and burning more calories, it'll help. But also our metabolism kind of adjusts too. Like I saw a study not too long ago. I read about it, and then it came out in another paper recently. I don't know if any of you guys saw it, where if you take a hunter-gatherer that's like a tribal person in Africa that's living in the rainforest or something, and if they're eating, say they're eating 2,000 calories in a day or whatever, and then somebody is completely, so they're walking around all day, you'd think they're burning more calories than someone that's eating the same amount of calories here and is completely sedentary. No, actually the person that's walking all day, hunter-gatherer person, is burning the same amount of calories that you are burning sitting doing nothing. And so, because it's our body's adaptation. So when you're used to walking around all day every day to get your food and live your life, you're burning this, you're basically, your metabolism dials down, because it's like conservation. So our body always wants to conserve calories, conserve energy. And so we have all this physiology kind of against us, kind of know that our bodies are trying to store fat because it always thinks that we're going to not have a meal coming for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something. So we're having to kind of fight against all of that. And so the ways to fight against that is to lower that calorie density, eat the right food. And it's also important not to focus too much on your weight on the scale and things like that. You want to, feel good, be healthy, have energy, and not maybe focus so much on weight, because there's thin people that are metabolically very sick, have insulin resistance, have heart disease, drop dead of heart attacks, strokes, everything else. And then there's people that are on the heavier side that are metabolically are pretty healthy, much healthier than the skinny person was. So you don't want to put too much emphasis on weight and body fat, but there is, the whole process of being a normal weight, but being fat on the inside versus, just maybe having a few extra pounds in the hips and butt, and then having not much of the visceral fat that's metabolically more unhealthy. So So yeah, we want to. Yeah, so going back to the menopause hormonal change is kind of what I said earlier. Is you're more handicapped now in a bad way because you've lost that effective estrogen. You're more insulin resistant, so you're going to have to drive your calorie density down even more than you did before. And so even though you're like, well, I'm eating the exact same thing as I was 10 years ago, why am I gaining weight or why can't I lose weight? Well, now you're going to have to exercise more, drive your calorie density down even more to get the same effect, and to try to either maintain your weight, not gain, or to try to lose a little bit more and build muscle. Soy does have estrogen effects. So yeah, so actually there's good studies that show that adding 3 to 5 servings of soy a day reduces menopausal hot flashes because there's phytoestrogen in soy. And phytoestrogen is, phyto means plant. And so it's actually good. It actually lowers your risk of breast cancer, lowers your risk of heart disease to eat more soy products. And it has those natural estrogens. So there's good estrogen receptors that are stimulated that are good for the bones, the blood vessels and things like that. But then there's bad estrogen receptors that actually soy suppresses. So the bad estrogen receptors, ones you don't want to be stimulated, are in like the breast tissue, for example. And the soy products actually block those and stimulate the estrogen in the places you do want. So, okay. We're at time, but one last question. Yeah.
So, during menopause, doesn't it make sense instead of stopping eating at 8, maybe go earlier? Would that make a difference because of the insulin resistance?
Well, I mean, the effect is after 8, so you're okay to eat up until 8 if you'd like to. But we would make a difference. I mean, 8 o'clock is kind of that cutoff. So before 8 o'clock, you're not that insulin resistant. After 8 o'clock, you are. And so, but trying to get that maybe 8-hour eating window whenever it's convenient for you to start and stop can be helpful. But
Yeah, I've always heard that the right time is when you're writing business.
right.
So not eating after 8 would help that, but if I was just worried about that, thinking about that. He's having a meal when he goes to sleep.
Yeah.
So eating rhythm and then the body trying to prepare for that.
Yeah, well, still, I mean, I guess you're still digesting, well, he's mostly digesting food during work. And then by the time he gets home, he's going to sleep, he eats again. But he still has enough time to, even though he's awake and moving around, he's still, that fasting, there is still repair going on in the body. You're not eating. So when you're in that fasting state, think of it like the gas tank's pretty empty. And so you're repairing, rebuilding, things like that. And then of course, when you're sleeping, your brain's doing a lot of repair and all that stuff.
So he really doesn't affect that part of your body state, but when it chooses to repair itself, just doesn't understand.
Not that I know of that specific situation. It's just that, I'd have to figure out how to apply somebody that's working all night. But circadian rhythm is more just when your body's designed to store fat versus burn calories and fat. That's more specific to that. Yeah. Well, thanks everyone. Next week we have three of the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine. I don't know if you want to introduce yourself, Pam, for those who don't know you.
I'm the resident psychologist here, and I get to cover 3 of the pillars of lifestyle: the importance of sleep, managing stress, and connection, not with others, but with oneself and with spirit. And for those of you who've heard me lecture before, this is totally different because I get bored with myself. So, so that's great.
Next week, yeah.
And lots of pictures of my animals at the farm. So.
Yeah. Great. Thanks, everyone. Yeah. All right. Hope that was helpful.